Good morning, everyone. I, Anamika Rajwani, Academic Coordinator, Student Council of BIMHRD, feel privileged in welcoming Mr. Muthu Ranganathan, Director, Product Manager at SAP India. Mr. Muthu Ranganathan has an experience of over 20 years in diverse business and functions across India, like financial corporation, banking investment, automotive industries, and IT. Sir is graduate in Finance and Accounts from RKM Vivekanand College and also is ACA from ICI in Accounting and Finance. Nonetheless, he is DIP in Computers from Aptech Computers UK. Sir has attended management programs from IIM Bangalore. He has a rich corporate experience in field of finance, product management, planning and global operations. Mr. Ranganathan started his corporate career as audit manager in Sridhar and Santhanam in the year 1992. After that, he joined Arvind Brands as assistant manager finance, PepsiCo as a planner. Moving forward in his career, he also worked with Ford India as a senior treasury analyst, Hyprint Solution as product manager, and Keen as VP before joining SAP India. Now, I would hereby like to call upon Mr. Muthu Ranganathan to enlighten us with his words of wisdom.
Hello? Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. So I was briefly listening into the other gentleman from Jabong. It's a different world on the e-commerce side. So I'm here from SAP. Actually, I'm from to highlight Mr. Gopalakrishnan. I'm also from SAP Labs, but we are still a big organization. So we don't know what's going on the education side and how things move. But I'm more on the product and innovations group at SAP. So what I'm going to cover today is trying to focus on something called how do you build successful products from India, for India and the globe, right? So pretty much what we do at SAP, in SAP Labs here in India, we have centers in Bangalore, in Gurgaon, as well as a small setup here in Pune as well. And we basically go and do products for the world. Like it's a global factory, I would say, for products, of SAP products across different areas. And that's what it is. So my focus is going to be on telling you and sharing a bit of some thoughts on this area, because as you step into the corporate sector, one of the things which is going to really come through is how are we going to be globally relevant from India. We have the right things. We have first of all, we have the language as a big advantage for us. We all speak English, we communicate in English, which is a huge advantage, which we've been always leveraging for many years. And there are a lot of other things which I plan to share here. So I'm going to, I kind of created a few slides here, but I would leave a lot of time, run through some of these slides, but leave a lot of time for questions, which I have not probably covered, and you guys have anything on the company SAP, on career, or from the experience I have, you might have some questions. So I can probably cover those. I'll leave more time for questions. But what I want to cover is, Anamika already covered a brief about my profile. I'll quickly run you through my journey in different areas I worked, which is itself something I'd be interested to share with you. And then I want to really cover this topic of how do we make global products or products from India. And then the focus, since I come from the software product area, I want to really walk you through what it is and bring in a kind of a fun way. I try to put in some thoughts on how easily you can grasp it. How many of you here do not know Bollywood? Any hands? How many of you do not know cricket? No hands up. So obviously, Bollywood is something we all know very well. So I'm going to share some thoughts with a Bollywood analogy so that you guys get it easily, because simplicity is what is very important for us to understand certain concepts. And this is something we use sometimes for our new journeys to explain what is all about product, software products, how do we make them and stuff like that. And also cover a few things in terms of trends, because as you step through to the future, you saw that e-commerce is quite hot. Every one of you know about it with Flipkart and Amazon and all these guys coming into India, and this very successful IPO in China in the e-commerce space. So all this something you're probably reading, and you're getting so much of knowledge. So I'm going to give a kind of a different perspective on the enterprise software space, that is business to business, whereas all these guys are doing products for business to the consumer, just B2C. I'm going to call out a few things on the business to business. This is where SAP plays strongly, and this is where most of the people, especially MBAs, land up and kind of work in this area. I'm going to cover a little bit of SAP's organization and the typical organization of software companies, how they're laid out, what are the kind of roles which exist there, so you could just start thinking about a few of that as well. This is what I plan to cover. So, quick walkthrough of my journey. When working in the corporate world the last 20 years, I've started, I'm a CA, chartered accountant and a cost accountant, and I went and landed up in software after 10 years in the core corporate finance area. So worked for companies like Arvind Brands. Many of you probably wear Arrow shirts and the Flying Machine jeans or Lee jeans. This is all done by Arvind Brands. And many of you probably already at least would have tasted some of the Pepsi products. So I worked in Pepsi in the corporate planning group. So I used to work for directly under Praveen Someshwar, who was recently the CEO of beverages. So I used to work for him directly. This is a great opportunity for me to learn a lot of things from him. And then I also worked for Ford as they launched the Icon car. I was in the treasury division trying to get the sourcing of funding for Ford India, basically when Icon car was launched. Many of you probably have heard about it. Icon was one of the first sedan, which was quite a success in India after going away from the Maruti 800 days. And I then stepped into software because I had a passion for software industry. I used to do a bit of programming during my CA days. So I always had this IT flavor always getting into me. So I stepped into a company called Ramco Systems. How many of you know Ramco Systems? Have you guys heard about it? Not bad. It's an excellent company. It's an Indian company, Indian product company. Very rare. They had the passion to build products from India for the global markets. They are not so successful because of multiple other reasons, because their go-to-market was not very, very good, but they had extremely high intellectual property filings, right? So they are one of the best Indian product companies. And many of you know about services companies here. Like, can you guys name some few Indian software services companies? Right, so I think I could hear all of that because they are quite popular, they have made it big, whereas product companies have not gone that route. Now with a lot of these e-commerce companies coming in, there is a lot of momentum there, but there are a few examples I would share with you on how the product companies in India has also kind of gone up. And then what I planned, I also did was basically joined a company called Hyperion, which is very strong in the analytics space. So it's kind of a journey where I always moved into more and more specialization, right? Because I feel that when you start specializing yourself, that part with the previous gentleman was talking about, how do you differentiate? So the one thing I would say how you can differentiate in this world is start specializing yourself, and that's going to be a key to be part of trying to do something for the globe, right? Trying to be something different to the globe. And that's where I started to move into this company, Hyperion, and then when SAP wanted to do something big on the same space, they went and hired some of the key guys on the business analytics space. That's when I moved into SAP, because I was one of those guys who was sought after because I had the specialized skills. So why I'm trying to highlight that part is, if you keep that one word, and if I can just go out of this room saying that what you learned from this one session from me is, can I build up specialization in whichever area? It could be a specific industry or a specific topic or a specific area. It's not like a broad marketing topic or a broad sales topic, but in that, how do I specialize, get into the latest and greatest, start thinking about what is going to happen in the future, and start thinking and building up my career for that. That is where I think you can be quite differentiating and successful. So that's about quickly about me. I've been traveling around the world. I've visited 25 countries. As part of that's the opportunity I got working for companies like SAP, where I could go and talk about our solutions to global C-level executives and go and talk to them and show them what this product is all about. And then during this trip, you also learn a lot of cultural things, the way things work in the US, the way things work in Europe and in Asia. They are totally different, where in the US, people really like to make things simple. They want to get information in a simple way at a more high level, whereas in Europe, people really go into the details. You need to be very detail oriented and you need to present to them. So it's like a lot of good stuff, good learning from this multicultural experience. Now I just wanted to start off, since we all are in this era, it's a great era of Narendra Modi ji. Many of you probably are his fans, some of you probably do not like him for some reasons, but one thing is very sure, that this whole mantra of Make in India is really caught up very well in the corporate sector. How many of you have seen some of this news either in YouTube or in the newspaper? Glad at least 50% of you have seen it. So it's a huge opportunity for India, and that is where I'm going to be talking about how we are doing, even at SAP, though it's a German company, how much we focus on building things from India, and because of the available skills here and the kind of people we have here, I want to really go and highlight that part. And this is a huge opportunity. Now, when I started working in the early 90s, that's when Dr. Manmohan Singh actually launched this big economic development. Many of you probably were too young to know about that, but that was one big transformation which we saw. And now we are seeing that we are taking it to the next level with this Make in India concept. If you have not seen this in detail, as you kind of step into your career, start really looking at this Make in India website there. I've just posted it for you, but it's a tremendous momentum there across different industries, how people can start engaging in this whole Make in India, and then the corporates, how they're quite participative, right from Reliance to all these MNCs. And we hear that when Modi ji is going to go talk in US, is going to really call upon the US leaders to kind of come and participate in this particular area, where the ultimate, the basic premise of it is you make products or services from India for the globe, including India. Of course, you have to be very self-sufficient for what you do in India, because you see that 800 million people are under the age of 35. There is a lot of people there with a lot of skills, and we really need to get in and focus on this Make in India. So I just thought I'll start off with that, because my topic is around this global products from India. So let me go through what it takes to make a product, right? It is, while I'm going to talk more from my own experience, mainly in the software product industry. I also worked in companies like Pepsi, where products are made, new products are launched, and things like that. So here, I'm trying to go and highlight to you what are those main ingredients for making a product quite successful, right? So the three things I wanted to highlight to you is I want to bring in a kind of a Bollywood analogy here, right? So people, all of you wake up, so because it's all Bollywood stuff, so you don't get bored. So one thing is the place and the people and the actual product itself, right? The three things which you can really highlight when you want to actually build a successful product, right? So what is this, right? Let me go into a little more in details about this. Now, the first and foremost is the place, right? Place we work matters a lot. I know many of you come from different parts of India, though you are studying here in Pune. You come from all parts of India, different states, and you have different likings. But whichever area you choose to work in, right? First figure out which is the real destination where things happen. The place matters a lot, because the whole ecosystem of people who are sitting there, you could learn a lot from the whole ecosystem. Now, if you take software, it's very clear that you need to be in the main cities where a lot of these companies are, right? So for example, we have this triangle cities here in India, which is Bangalore, Pune, and Hyderabad, which are like the hot destinations for most of the companies. Like most of the big software companies, whether it's SAP or Oracle or Amazon, all these guys have their global offshore center or the global product labs in Bangalore. Many of the companies like Google and Microsoft have it in Hyderabad. There are a few more companies which have their global establishment in Pune. Now, this is for software. Now, if you want to make a career, obviously, the Bollywood part there is that if somebody wants to make a career in fashion or in movies, obviously they need to go to Mumbai, right? That is the place, because sitting in some other place, you're not going to have that whole ecosystem, because you don't have the people, the skills, where you can really gather how you can be successful. So one of the things you start to think about as you want to really give your path or your career path is focus on where you want to really go, right? You need to migrate. So I grew up in Chennai. I studied in Chennai. But as soon as I thought that I'll make a mark in software, I migrated to Bangalore. Of course, it was not a long way away. It's just 6 hours drive. But still, you need to move yourself to the place where things happen, right? So it's very important. Now, if you want to do a global mark, which we don't encourage because we want to do things, make in India, but still, there are a lot of you who have probably aspirations to go work in abroad in different places. Now, for that, the destination, if it is for software, obviously it's going to be either in the Silicon Valley or Seattle, where most of the companies are residing. And then, of course, you can also go to Germany, where SAP has its headquarters, and we have like 10,000 people there who are the core of SAP people. But pretty much the place matters a lot, because that's going to be one of the key thing as you start to look at your career and if you want to really look at the product. Now, the second thing I want to highlight to you is about the people. And this is where it gets a little more interesting for you to really understand what is all about products, right? Software products. Who are the players? What are the kind of people who are involved there? And this is where I'm going to bring in a kind of a Bollywood analogy for you to understand it very easily. Now, the first thing is the development, right? If you want to really become a cool developer, building out products, you want to really go and code something, you have the passion. Many of you, I think, are with computer science probably, and though you are in an MBA institute, probably you would still like to do a lot of development and you can grow in the development leadership. But that is where they are the core of a software company, right? They are the actors, they are the performance, right? So that is the analogy, the Bollywood is, you need somebody who's as a great actor to perform. Whatever people others say, what needs to be done, actually the guy has to go and perform. You need an Amitabh Bachchan or a Shah Rukh Khan or a Rajinikanth or whoever to come in and do that performance, right? So they are the doers, and you need that very, very importantly, right? So that's one of the analogy I want to bring in for the software product, what you need. The second one, so the development is something most of you are aware of, and you feel that when you talk about software products, you probably think it's all about development, right? It's not that. There are a lot of other key players who are required to make a very successful product. So that is what I'm going to highlight to you. The second one is the cameraman, right? Cameraman are, these days, if you look at Bollywood movies, cameraman play a very important role. Though they are not visible to you, probably some of them are very well known, but they are behind the scenes, right? But that's another very key skill which you need when you develop products, right? So the UX designers in a software company, the designers play a very, very critical role. The designers, the design culture is a very important area which you need in a company, in a software company, to make things look very good. Because you see that now today you have a lot of things on a mobile device, you have cool websites when you can look at the products, whichever is the product. So the designers are one of the pillars, and many of you probably are not even aware about a career in design, but design itself is a great career stream you could look at, right? And there are very cool designers nowadays coming up in India who are kind of contributing to many of these companies. The third one is obviously the people who put in the money, who are actually sponsoring how the product needs to be done, right? Whether it's the venture capitalists who really puts in the money for software products. So especially if you have a big idea, you want to start off something on your own and build out. Venture capitalists are the kind of people you can really go for, and the analogy is with a producer of a movie, right? Because they put in the money, they see how things would come out, and the success or failure, the business aspect of it goes to them, right? The other players in this area is the quality assurance people in software, right? They are like editors. They make sure what product is done is as per the quality, and making sure there are changes and edits and recommendations which they do. They are very, very important in this whole cycle. So there are one more people who are very, very keen. And then you have the architects, many of the software architects who are basically laying out the entire thing, what technology to be used, what kind of movement from one to the other should be done, and everything. They define the how of the whole stuff, right? How of the product. And the real analogy is, if you know in the movies, the screenplay people really lay out how the whole movie should flow through, right? And that's where they kind of come in. And then you get into, once the product is going to get out, you start to plan the launch of the product, and this is where the product marketer comes into play. Many of you are in marketing, you're specializing in marketing. So this is one area you could really get into in the software side, where you could become the product marketer, where you are basically talking about the value proposition, the right messages, the right media where the product needs to be launched. Right now, most of the products get lost in YouTubes and online channels. So that's where the whole product marketer piece comes in. Now, finally, a few more people who are involved is the product manager, the product management function, which is basically the orchestration of the whole product cycle, right? That is like a director. So director really drives what the product is all about. And I just say that the product manager really goes through the end-to-end, right from the idea to the final product. They are the ones who kind of drive the whole end-to-end of the product. And then you need to get the first feedback. So typically what happens there in the software industry is we go to analysts like Gartner and IDC and these different analyst firms who really give reviews about the product, which is very important as well, because they influence a lot of the decisions which people will go and buy. So analysts' thoughts, they do a lot of blogging and things like that. That's where it's similar to a critic in the movie, where we go and watch some movies based on some critics who really say yes or no. We look at probably some of the media reviews or some key guys who are blogging about a movie saying that, okay, this is the kind of reviews I need and I want to go for it. And then finally, of course, the audience, the customer, everything is done for the customer. So they also play a very important role in shaping this whole thing. So the final product, so one of my seniors, when I started doing things in software, he was always talking about you have to aim to make a Sholay. right? So Sholay is once in a lifetime movie. So some movies are made which kind of goes for decades. It's very successful. Success is based on both the commercial aspect as well as the acceptance from the audience. So it's very important that you finally make, we are all aiming to make a hit product. And that is where there are a lot of movies which gets made which are not very successful as well, right? So the whole idea here is that how do we make very successful product, and to make that successful product, you need the kind of people I was talking about, especially in software. You needed that kind of skills, and really it's a teamwork. It's not about one person, though some people might be quite visible. When you look at, let's say, Google or some of these companies like Microsoft, you see one guy at the top, right? Is it Larry Page or Bill Gates? We all know them because they are like probably the founders. But there is a whole team working which has made this happen. Many of us do not know about those guys, but as we get into the career stream, we can always mark, and wherever we are good at, we might be able to go and specialize in that area and try to kind of contribute to a successful product. Now here I have just listed a few examples of some very successful products, right? Like Google, the search engine in Google is something we all know, right? We all use it it's become like, it's like oxygen. We all say that it's like oxygen. You can live without oxygen, but without Google, you cannot work, right? So because you have to go check out a lot of things in Google these days. SAP has been quite successful in the enterprise space. Then you have things like small startups like Redbus. You know that they sold off for 600 crores. It's an Indian startup which really made it big globally. And then they are now the GoBibo, which acquired them, are taking it to a global market and bringing that whole concept to the whole world. Similarly, Tally. How many of you know about Tally? Great. Tally is once in a lifetime. It's one of the most successful products out of India. Mr. Bharat Goenka, who is the founder, he's an amazing guy. He's been treated as the founder of Indian software products, and this is a company which has sold to 1 million businesses in India, right from your Kirana shops to really big companies. Actually, Reliance used to use it for so many years. They used to use Tally. There is also a lot of companies which use Tally. Even big companies use Tally a lot. And that's one of the big success stories from here, from India. Now, the product momentum, why I'm trying to kind of guide you guys into this is trying to share some of the thoughts here on the product side, where product momentum is picking heavily in India. Now, many of you, as you clearly highlighted, all the services company which are there in India. So the big move now for India is towards software products. While there were few companies like Ramco and few companies like Tally which came from India, now you see a lot of smaller players in new areas like e-commerce and everywhere starting to do products. And the big advantage of products is once you build it and it's successful, it is repeat business. Your revenue keeps coming in. So you just need to enhance the product, but once you start making a mark with a product, you start to gain a lot of momentum. And I'm going to tell you guys that you will have a lot of opportunity because there are a lot of these software product companies which are going to come up. And this is the two areas like NASSCOM. Many of you have probably come across NASSCOM, which is the National Association for Software Services in India. They have come out with this product conclave, which is a product-focused momentum. And then iSpirit is another group, which is the Software Products Industry Roundtable. These are the two organizations. You should go check it out. And if you are really interested to make a mark in the software product side, you could take a look. I just highlight a couple of differences from services to products, right? What happens in the services industry, like Infosys or TCS or all these companies, whatever solutions they make, most of it, they go and try to sell it to one customer. So they look at one customer's requirement and go and build it, right? It is not looking at thousands of customers. So companies like SAP or Microsoft, we focus on 1,000 use cases and how it can be abstracted and made into a single product to solve basically a business problem which is repeatable, and it is for a particular market. So the market can be an industry or a particular function, which is finance or marketing or HR, and you are trying to go and solve it. It could, including the B2C companies where they go and solve it for the end consumers, like Amazon and things like that. And then the second difference I wanted to highlight is basically big products which are produced are all coming from outside of India. And this is where we can start to really scale up and start building products from India for the global markets. And this is something you guys can start thinking about if you have an interest towards software industry. So as I said that, what you should be start looking at, which are the areas which is kind of picking up from now on into the future for the next 10 years, this is going to be big momentum around few areas, right? One is cloud. When I go and talk to my daughter, she's 13 years old, I tell her about cloud, she keeps thinking, oh, this is the cloud which is there in the air, but it's not like that, right? Cloud is kind of a big term which is picking up right from the Gmails and the world, the consumer application space which went into cloud. Now the enterprise space, you have Salesforce and Workday and SAP, all of these companies are going into cloud and producing solutions for the cloud which is kind of hosted somewhere, so the customer doesn't have to implement the software in their location, so they'll save on lot of hardware, software costs. But the most important thing is they also get the new releases instantly. As soon as we develop, it is instantly updated. Like the way when you go into your Yahoo page or Google page, on a fine day you go in, you see all the new features suddenly coming in, right? So that same way in the software, enterprise software space also, we're going to be seeing a lot of quick innovation back to the customers, and that's a big advantage of cloud. Now big data is really picking up because we get a lot of data from different sources, from different transaction systems, from the market, from social media, where a lot of people start tweeting and putting comments on Facebook and things like that. Now all this data, how can I use it? How can I run some algorithms? So a lot of data scientist groups are being formed by many companies, including Reliance in India, where they are trying to figure out how this data can be used very effectively. And this is one space which is going to be a very hot space for the next 10 to 15 years. The third one is mobility, and you guys know that how the mobility, mobile phones are evolving with the iPhone 6 Plus launch and all this big news coming in from the Android side. Now, the big momentum going forward on that area is the Internet of Things. Many of you probably come across. How many of you know about Internet of Things? Good, at least I see few hands up. But this is one area you should go Google it out and check out what's going on in this space. But it is going to really pick up momentum over the next 10 years, which is basically, it is not about you doing business through just the mobile devices with your hands, but devices talk to each other. The Google car, driverless car, is an example of Internet of Things, because it really, the car kind of talks to, looks at the maps, looks at the traffic lights, and tries to go on its own. So like that, there are different devices, different use cases where Internet of Things is really hotting up. It is not an academic thing, it is really getting real, and you're going to see a lot of momentum in the Internet of Things area. And then, of course, business analytics still seems to be a very hot area where you can start looking at analyzing all the information, trying to make sense out of it. And this is one area which is really still continuing to be very hot. And then finally, there is this concept of business networks, right? So many of you probably know how in the current release of iPhone 6, what they are trying to do is you get an iPhone with where you can go and purchase without a credit card or cash. You can go and directly purchase from your mobile device into a device which the company, the retailer has, right? So basically, the business network is a concept where you connect all these different businesses across the supply chain. That is, right from the guy who's actually going and buying in the store, from the store to warehouse, from the warehouse to the actual factory, and the factory and to the R&D division. So the whole thing is kind of a connected thing, and the business, the transaction which happens across this value chain is going to be very, very positive. SAP recently, a week back, we acquired a company called Concor. I don't know if you have come across this company called Concor. Concor is into the travel space where they have connected all the travel value chain, right from the airline company to the basically the travel hotels and the car rental companies and the different attractions all together. So as a traveler, when I want to go and try things out, I can do a seamless connect. And there are a few companies in India also, like Clear My Trip and all these other Make My Trip and all these companies which are involved in that area. But Concor is one of the leaders there. Now that is where the business network thing comes in for that industry, but there it is kind of applicable for all the industry. So these are like some big trends in this area where you can start thinking about how you can look at it. Now, quickly walk you through an organization, like a kind of a structure, so you guys understand where you want to go if you want to pursue a career in a software product organization. So what we are made up of, this is something which I have kind of highlighted from SAP, but it's a very common thing in most of the software companies. We have a group which is, you have the CEO on the board, and under them they have primarily 3 main groups, and then there are supporting functions. So the main functions is product and innovations group, which is where the real innovation or the new products gets created. You have from the idea to getting the product out is all managed by the product and innovation, and in there you have development, design, and product management function. I am part of the product management function in the product and innovation area, right? So then you have the global field organization, which we call as customer organization, where people do actually take whatever products which is built in the product and innovation and take it to the market and take it to the customers, right? Take it to the partners who can then go and sell it back into the customers. So we have the global customer organization where you have people who do direct sales. Direct sales is a particular salesperson in our company will directly go and sell to Mahindra, or they go and sell it to Unilever or Nestle or any of these companies. Then you have a marketing function which basically does the longer term vision, and I'm going to cover a little more in detail about marketing because you guys are all specializing in marketing. Then we have a group called ecosystems and channels, where people do not sell directly to customers, but they sell through partners. So SAP goes and partners with a lot of companies like TCS and all these services companies who then go and sell the product to the end customer, right? And then we have other channels, like we have a web channel and insider sales channel, like a tele channel, where you can also go sell the products, right? So those all come under that. And then you also have the consulting organization, which basically does a lot of consulting services, which is not a big thing in SAP because we are not focused on services, but we also do consulting if a customer wants us to do, where we can go and implement the product which we have for the customer. Then we have the support function, the customer support function, which basically does the post-sales support, right? So for cloud, it's becoming very hot because you need to have the cloud infrastructure also managed within support. But the primary thing is the product support function, because the customers have signed up for maintenance for the products, and these guys do the customer support, and it's a pretty large organization in most of the software companies. And then while these are the core areas, just to say that right from innovation to take it to the market to post sales support, that need to be well supported by functions which are like the core functions, like finance, where money, whatever money is required, whether I want to acquire the product or run my operations, is all handled by finance. HR guys basically make sure we get the top talent and retain them. IT basically make sure that the IT infrastructure for people to work on is provided, and the operations guys takes care of all the budgets and the operational element, like travel and other things, right? So this is like at a high level what the organization is. And then the board and the CEO also have groups like M&A. This is mergers and acquisitions, where you start thinking about any products you can acquire and things like strategy and stuff like that, right? So I want to really go into a little more in detail about the marketing organization. Many of you are specializing in marketing. So what typically marketing organization looks like is, you have a CMO, which is a Chief Marketing Officer. Jonathan Becker is our CMO, global CMO. He's a very, very active guy on social media if you want to follow him. His name is Jay Becker. He's an amazing guy to follow, and he's a big influencer. And then under him, he has groups like field marketing. Field marketing basically runs all the events and the programs and supports the business development and the sales organization very closely. So field marketing is all about supporting the sales. The product marketing organization supports the product function, right? What is the positioning of the product, how you take the product, what is the value proposition of the product, and all that is taken care by the product marketing guys. Now the one new thing over the last few years has come up big time is digital marketing. And digital marketing is basically all about social media marketing and online marketing, the websites and those things are all taken care. And of course the communication, how the external communication and the internal communication works also comes under the marketing. So you communicate to the external world in a single view of what all this company represents, and that is where the brand gets enhanced and things like that. Some of the things like branding and stuff like that comes as part of the product marketing side in the organization. Now, I would like to quickly walk you through a couple of other slides before we just can jump into some questions. So I put in here some 10 key things you could do. I don't want to kind of read through all of that. I've just put them in. I'm going to send the slides out back. But one of the main important two things I want to highlight here is the first one is the specialization, which I kind of highlighted initially, right? There is no room for generalists these days, right? If you're a generalist, you don't really shine so very well in your career. So if you want to really go to the top, you need to become more and more specialized, because specialization really helps these days. So that's one area I would say you can really think about. The second one is build your GQ. Any guess what is GQ? Sorry? Speak up. Gender quotient. Global quotient. Okay. So GQ is Google quotient. What is that? So Google quotient is, if you go today, how do people hire you? Or how do their business with you? Or how do people really interact with you? A lot of things is determined by your online presence. Now, this is where you guys, you are entering into a different era where everything is online. You are, I don't know if you have heard this radio program where some of these guys from film industry and Chetan Bhagat and all come and talk about onliner or something like that. But it's a very, very important thing you need to consciously do, where if somebody comes and Googles your name, you should really find out. Try this out. Today, go back to your laptops or your machines, put your name in Google and see what's the result. How many of you tried that? Cool, not bad. Many of you have tried, but what results we typically get is our own Facebook page or our LinkedIn page or something like that, right? But it's very important that you start to build up, you have to write things like blogs, and you have to start becoming professionally relevant. So when people search you or put you on Google, they really understand what you are, right? That is one of the most important things in this era we need to really look at. So one is specialization, the second is Google quotient, and the rest is all about the normal stuff probably you've learned in your college, but I just put that across there for you to think about, right? Yeah, so that brings the end of my whatever slides I had. So I will, right now I just pause here for a few questions. You might have very specific questions, any questions on SAP or about anything else you want to ask me, go ahead. But I wanted to kind of touch upon, I'm going to send this slides, and I do a lot of blogging, so you could take a look at some of the blogs I have written. I've written a blog on a personal balance scorecard, which is really trying to see how you can really do your own personal balance scorecard. We all have probably read about balance scorecard for a company or an enterprise, but can we do a personal balance scorecard and set out some vision and goals for each of us, right? So read through some of the blogs, but I'll pause here for a few questions.